Hi everyone, my name is Eskuhi Kantarian and I'm going to introduce you to Chapter 8, which is actually the beginning of Part 3 of our book, which explores juvenile delinquency and social context and how membership in social groups and collective behaviors impact upon human behavior. What is family? Family is primary socializing agent and the first social group that teaches an individual basic attitudes, values, beliefs, appropriate behaviors. Today, we will talk about the historical development and changing role of the traditional American family. The emphasis of this chapter is on the family's role in socialization, influencing juveniles' behavior, and the importance of social variables such as social class, family size, birth order, and the nature of family interaction in terms of their relationship to juvenile delinquency. We will also look at the effects on children of mothers working outside the home and the various techniques of parental discipline in regards to their theoretical link to delinquency. Also, we will discuss the research on the relationship between single parent families and delinquency. And finally, an overview of the family's role in delinquency prevention.
Hello, my name is Charity. Today I will be talking to you guys about Chapter 8, pages 186 to 189, which include the changing role of the family and the importance of the nuclear family that later emerges after industrial America. To start off, I would like to talk about social groups. Some of the first social groups of juveniles is their family, which is also known as family of orientation, when the children are first exposed to socialization, and through their family, it's like the first experience to who they are, what they should be, what society is like, and things of that such. Next, I wanted to talk about the pre-industrial American families, which we're comparing to the nuclear families. And we want to start off with extended families in which several generations lived under one roof, helping each other with household chores, with farm, with food, pretty much living an agricultural life, and providing for themselves, not really necessarily needing to live close to the industrial world that is not created yet. Um, and in that extended family, there was things such as hierarchy within the family and the youth. Normally, meaning the oldest brother um, would obtain a lot of power and be able to look over younger siblings. And in this case, this made it less likely for these um, adolescents to get into trouble, to get caught by the law, and things of that sort, because they had several different adults looking after them: older brothers, grandmothers, mothers, fathers. It made it very difficult for them. Um, Next thing was the thing that changed in those times from a child to an adult, is when they went through the rites of passage, where in that case they got married very young. They had other responsibilities, even more than what they did as a child, um, and with that, their responsibilities changed entirely. Next, I would like to focus on the increasing importance of nuclear families and the creation of the word adolescence. So, to begin, I went over, and through the book, it talks about how the society it went from an agricultural society to an industrial society. In that case, a lot of families wanted to relocate closer to their industrial places where they can get food and stay a little bit closer into the city instead of providing for themselves, living out on acres of land. Next was the new demands of the family. The units of production became units of consumption. So instead of having children that help around the house and feed the animals and the chickens and take the eggs and things of that sort, it became more of a thing like parents had to start providing for those children and starting to feed those children, and less chores were being proposed during that time. Um, and a lot of families became smaller. In this sense, it wasn't several generations in one home. It was mother, it was father, it was brother, maybe sister, and then that's it. So the unit of production, being able to work and provide for the family, was a lot less in this time. Next, was going from pre-industrial societies to modern. Adults consider adolescents as assets, useful with chores once again. And going into the modern society, a lot of things like household appliances, urbanization, labor laws took away a lot of the tasks for those adolescents. Children then became economic burdens, unfortunately. Next thing is, let's see, the supervision of children diminish. So in the past, like I said, I was talking to you a little bit about how the child is seen and disciplined by older siblings, and when older siblings are off to sports and they're not there at the home doing chores and things of that sort, it changes the discipline actions that take place within the family. And last but not least, for the teens, it became that they would want to appropriate behavior for teens became ambiguous. Marginalization grew for juveniles, so them getting in trouble and things of that sort, it grew. And there also was a youth subculture, which youth struggle for a sense of identity and a set of attitudes, values, and beliefs to which they could adhere. They didn't know what they should be doing. It was kind of a lost space, a lost time. Some of these children are not working anymore. They're not providing for the family as they did once before. And one of these connections is single mothers is the number one possible connection to juvenile delinquency. And this is the beginning of the creation of adolescence and how it derived from pre-industrial families and how it sifted into the modern day times and how their role changed dramatically throughout history. And that is my section.
When it comes to families, that is the first place that teenagers, children, anything will look up to. It's the first thing they see. It's obviously like they're surrounded by it, and if the parents influence them, you know, the parents are pretty much the whole choice. Like, the parents are the ones that are like, oh, you're gonna go to this certain school, you're gonna go and you're gonna go to like church, you're gonna watch this much TV. The family's the ones that pretty much are the vocal point, the nick, something that makes it so children grow up the way they do. And that's the only influence that really is just surrounded by the parents. But once the kid goes off to school, the parents have no other choice but to let the kids venture out on their own. So if, say, the parents send them to a public school, then it's up to the kid to be like, oh, like, I should hang out with this group of friends, or blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to friends when they're, like, little kids, it's mostly dependent on, like, who, again, the parents hang out with. So it's mostly like, oh, like, my dad's friend hangs out with this certain person, and they have a kid. It's like, oh, perfect, like, our children can play together. It's so simple. But if they go off to school, it totally can change. Like, the parents don't really have, like, an advantage to know what their kid is doing away from home. But as far as, like, watching television or the media or anything like that, the parents have an influence of how much the kids watch, but mostly that is the main point of what makes children juveniles, because all they see on TV is violence, crime, and stuff like that. And there are studies showing that the media does have a really big influence on what happens with children. So that's a main focal point, and parents should limitize the uses of it, because if they don't, children will just go off and run amok and do whatever they want to do.
Hi, my name is Megan Cabron, and I am doing Chapter 8 and the part on working mothers and juvenile delinquency. When Rosie the Riveter stepped into the factory to take place of her husband who left for war, the event was seen as temporary. However, the results were long-lasting. Women proved that they were capable of working in factories, whether that be alongside of men or in place of them, but they were also expected to return home and fill their motherly duties. If women with young children were employed outside of the home, their duties at home were seen as more important than their work, which was put second. Over the decades since World War II, women have increasingly gone to work outside of the home. In 1986, Claire Brindis reported that over 50% of all mothers were in the workforce, including those who had children under the age of 6. Today, over 75% of mothers between the ages of 25 and 54 work outside of the home. One major issue for working mothers is finding adequate childcare. With the changing structure of the U.S. families, in most cases there are no available adult members to take care of their children. Some mothers who do not have the money to afford childcare make arrangements with non-working mothers to watch their children. However, in many cases, children must fend for themselves. These children are known as latchkey children, who will return from school to an empty home. In 2010, the census estimated that there are approximately 7 million grade school kids that are left unsupervised after school. Research has consistently found insignificant differences in rates of delinquency when comparing rates of delinquency among kids with working mothers versus kids with non-working mothers. One study indicated that working mothers often make a point to spend more time with their children when they are at home to compensate for the time they are away. Some studies show that daycare has far less effects on children than their experiences in the home. However, one study indicated that toddlers who spend time in childcare are more likely to be aggressive and defiant when they enter kindergarten. Still, time in childcare has not been linked to delinquency. Parents who consciously make up for the time away from their children may enhance the quality of interaction during the time they do not have with their children. Research also indicates that children with mothers who work outside of the home are more likely to participate in meaningful after-school activities. As suggested by Hershey, the social bonds may help to reduce the likelihood of delinquency than merely the mother's presence in the home.
Hey guys, my name is Aiden. I'll be presenting other family variables in juvenile delinquency in Chapter 8. Other family variables in juvenile delinquency include social class, family size and birth order, family interaction, and parental discipline. I'll be talking about the first two, social class and family size and birth order. The importance of the family in socializing its young members is without question, and each of the above variables have a huge impact on the problem of the juvenile delinquency. Social class. The first social status of a child is that of the family. It is well beyond the child's control whether the child is born into an impoverished family, a blue-collar working-class family, a middle-class professional family, or a wealthy family. However, this has profound impact upon his or her life. This ascribed status affects choice of neighborhood, attitudes and values, parental discipline, education, career choices, and even life expectancy. Lower-class juveniles are more likely to be arrested than middle or upper-class youths. Hence, they comprise more than their proportionate amount of the official data on delinquency. Although several sociological theories of delinquency causation attempt to explain why lower-class youths might be more prone to commit delinquency than their middle and upper-class counterparts, many studies show that delinquency exists among all social classes, but the lower-class youths are more likely to be officially processed. Lower-class youths are also more likely to come in contact with the police. The family's social class also affects the socialization experience within the family. Walter Miller argued that lower-class values were different from those of the middle and upper class. He viewed the focal concerns of the lower class as involving trouble, toughness, smartness, excitement, fate, and autonomy, all of which he contended led to gang delinquency. From a sociological perspective, socioeconomic status is an important determinant of social behavior. Family size and birth order. Psychologists and sociologists long have emphasized the importance of parents in personality development, but research indicates that the number of the siblings and the child's place in birth order are also importantly related to delinquency. Hershey indicated that large families tend to lack financial resources, discipline, and adequate socialization. Michael Reuter attempted to more directly relate family size to problems that might lead to delinquency, contending that large families may result in overcrowding, socioeconomic disadvantage, less communication, inconsistent discipline and supervision, and other family limitations. One could actually raise numerous arguments regarding Reuter's assertions. For example, place of residence. Rural families tend to be larger in size than urban families, but the delinquency rates are much higher in the urban areas. Birth ordinal position is seen as an important variable associated with the likelihood of delinquency. Research suggests that the first child tends to relate well to adults and experiences the undivided attention of parents for a period of time. Firstborn children apparently accept their parents' ways of doing things much more readily than do later born children. Bell even contended that parents attach greater importance to firstborn than to later born children. Loretta Blair and Soloway also concluded that firstborn children were less likely to become involved in delinquency because they tend to relate well to adults and internalize rules and regulations established by parents. The firstborn may also act as a third parent to younger siblings, thus identifying more strongly with adult roles than subsequent children. The later born children tend to be more competitive and feel a strong need not to conform in order to contrast with the conservative older sibling. The youngest child also seems somewhat more insulated against delinquency because he or she benefits from the experience parents have gained in raising the other children and also gaining from the experience of having older siblings as role models. The baby of the family typically receives a great deal of attention from the parents and older brothers and sisters, which may make the youngest child less likely to become involved in delinquency as well. Middle children sometimes get lost in the process. Middle children are more likely to be delinquent, and it may be that they feel relatively deprived of parental attention as compared to the oldest and youngest children, and they perceive getting in trouble as one method of gaining attention from adults. Family size and position in birth order impact upon the socialization process and relevant variables to be considered in the study of delinquency. In the argument of heredity versus environment, it is often ignored that different children in the same family experience different social environments. Dalton Conley noted that in addition to birth order, siblings also create a pecking order in the family that greatly influences personality, behavior, likelihood of success, and likelihood of delinquency. That's the end of my presentation.
My name is Ignesa and I will be discussing family interactions and parental disciplines. Research has shown concrete types of patterns of family interaction between parent and children. Parental rejection is an influential factor resulting to delinquency, along with parent coercion and shaming. On the other hand, strong attachment and involvement in family have been consistently linked to non-delinquency. Time and time again, family violence has shown to be a great factor to troubled youth. An estimated 50 million Americans are victims of physical violence within their own families. California Commission on Crime Control and Violence Prevention manifested millions of American children are subject to violent abuse, molestation, or severely neglected by parents. Countless studies link violence within the family to juvenile misbehavior and delinquency. Children mistreated in their own homes are more likely to be involved in drug use and other forms of delinquency. Besides the issue of physical violence, the overall state of parent and child relationship is a determining factor in understanding delinquency and its relationship to home environment. Several studies show that parental conflict and different factors of family stress are linked to delinquency and other forms of adolescent behavior. Research confirmed social bonds with a parent is an important factor in family interaction for reducing likelihood of delinquency. Regarding parental discipline, in the U.S., households range from physical punishment to no punishment at all. There are 3 contemporary strategies to child rearing. Rearing. Number 1 is authoritarian. Complete obedience is expected. Children do not question parents' motives or rules, more typical of lower class and working class families. Number 2, permissive. Child's leeway is valued, typical of middle class families. Number 3 is authoritative, based on positive reinforcement and punishments from time to time. Encourage freedom and within reasonable limits, common of upper, middle, and upper class families. Authoritarian families and religious families are connected to strict discipline and corporal punishments. Children from such households are prone to delinquent involvement. A study released by American Medical Association showed that the more a parent spanks a child, the worse the child behaves over time. Spanking has shown to be a temporary compliance, but ultimately leads to long-term defiance. While parental violence is connected to delinquency, persistent discipline by parents is not.
My name is Monette, and I'm doing single-parent families and delinquency. There has been much debate over the relationship between broken families, single-parent families, and juvenile delinquency. In early literature, it was thought that broken homes contributed to juvenile delinquency since the family is the primary agent of socialization. Divorce has always been thought to have a negative effect on juveniles. Empirical research has provided mixed relationships between delinquency and single-parent families. It has been shown that divorce has different impacts on boys and girls. Almost any form of family disruption could be linked to delinquency. Family instability has negative effects on a child's well-being, and some of those effects are linked to increased juvenile delinquency. Talcott Parsons believed that divorce was particularly dysfunctional for the development of young males because it created anxiety about their masculine identity. Compulsive masculinity, or an overemphasis of what were considered manly characteristics, were likely to develop in families where a father figure was absent. Boys from single-parent families are more likely to become violent. Children from broken homes tend to experience a loss of socioeconomical status, which leads to delinquency. Research has been mixed, and it is questionable about whether broken homes actually cause delinquency. There are inequalities in youths from broken homes and intact homes. Youths from broken homes were much more likely to be referred to juvenile court, while those intact homes were more likely to be dismissed during intake. Furthermore, juveniles from single-parent families were more likely to be institutionalized than placed on probation. The loss of a parent to death was not nearly as likely as a parent lost to divorce to lead to delinquency. Divorce has become much more socially accepted and more of a norm. Whether the increased number of homes split by divorce has caused increased delinquency is debatable. Sometimes divorce can actually lead to the child having 4 adult role models as opposed to 2 or 1, which can benefit them socially in a positive way. The nature of the relationship between the child and parents can also have an effect on delinquency. Homes characterized by neglect and conflict were more likely to lead to delinquency rather than homes broken by divorce. Children experiencing violence in the home became more violent, and there is more research to be done. However, it has been shown that one parent doing a good job of parenting and bonding with the child is better than 2 parents who don't.
Hello, good evening. My name is Amir Love, and I will be discussing the juvenile delinquency in family and how to prevent things from happening. So, as we all know, at the end of the day, that it is important, that family is the most important thing. Like, there's just nothing bypassed it. Either it doesn't matter how much you guys fight, bicker, get into it with one another. It's always important to have your family at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, that's all you got. That's who you've been brought up to. That's who you've seen around most of your life. And it's just very, very important to have your family there. So in all cases, we know that there's families that have broken homes. By broken homes is either there's one parent, there's never 2. There's always 2 parents that are divorced or either separated, or one has passed away when the child was a baby, never born, or anything like that, so the family just becomes destroyed. So with that being said, is that one parent who is involved and the other parent isn't is equally called a broken home. So in a child's life, there's things that does happen, there's things that are going to happen, and they know it, and it messes up with them. It messes them up in the inside and in the out. So they start to do things that they wouldn't normally do. They'll start hanging around the wrong people, the wrong crowd, and just things would just get terribly, terribly bad. So to prevent things like this from happening, we either have to reduce the marginally by providing clearly defined rules in the family. Parents, you guys need to knuckle. You guys need to put your foot down, talk to your kids, show them love, consideration, and just be there for them. I know that parents do go through things at times where they're not financially ready, emotionally ready. They're thinking about killing the baby. You guys, it's important. You guys should pray. Families need programming, and they just need to sit down, have a talk, call somebody, go through counseling if they could. And many problems of the juvenile delinquency is that most of the crime rates come from children that are under the age of 18. And those are the kids that are mostly tested as going through things in the inside of their homes, where it's either the parent is either stressed out of the other parent not being there, because you'll never see a kid going through things and both of the parents are there. It's always a broken home situation. So there's ways to prevent this. Another way is to prevent a child from going to jail is to provide meaningful participation in family discussions, decisions, and interactions. Supervise the children and adolescents. Provide clear rules and consistent discipline. If you don't discipline your child, they're just going to run and do whatever they please like they're doing now. And then most crime rates, it's robbery that the kids do because they don't have what other people do have. So it's hard to do that. It's hard to, sit a hard-headed child down and try to get him straight while he's out there doing whatever he does. Provide love and affection and concern. You got to be concerned about the kids because they could be going through things that you wouldn't even really know about because you're handling stuff on your own. And you got to develop a strong social bond with your children. You just can't be deserted from their interactions in their lives. Like, the kids come first. And, you just have to, you got to put things in order. You got to regard the values, the attitudes, beliefs, norms, and behaviors. And with that being said is that it's very important. And those rules can prevent a child from running out, doing whatever they could, and it can prevent them from being in jail.